time. Queer time. Queer times.
Hey everyone, welcome to Queer Times. I'm Harrison Fish.
And I'm Kristen Becker. Happy Pride.
Yes, it is Pride Month. This past weekend was Pride Weekend in Provincetown.
It is currently, while we're recording on Pride Sunday, which is why I have an unmarked beverage that I will clearly state is not coffee, and may or may not have a spicy green bean in it. You do the math.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Pride. I'm going to pride the way I always pride. And that is
Hair of the dog.
A little hair of the dog. And I was really sure this year that I was not going to do that. I was so locked in, as it were. And it's like, no, you're gonna do your gigs and you're gonna go home and you're gonna have some mozzarella sticks.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be that. And then the pure adrenaline of a big show just is still something I haven't figured out how to navigate. And I honestly don't care to.
I also think one of the things about Pride is so many people's first foray into being in a huge group of queer people just like them is at a Pride. Yeah. And I feel like it's hard to go to a Pride or be a part of a Pride and just not be that girl again.
Yeah, no, no, it's very true. I've always been involved in Pride in so many ways for so many years. And it's always been this like whirlwind of maybe a little too much to drink and not enough sleep and like just what the weekend is because you want to be with your community as long as possible because it's this special time when everybody's proud.
Yeah. And I know we talked about it last week, but Provincetown Pride is relatively new. And a lot of people were like, why do we need that here? When we first started a few years ago. But now it's like,
I think I was even like,
yeah, oh, totally. Me too. I was like, what the hell? But as it's progressed, it's become one of my favorite weekends because it brings so many people are here for their first time. So many people are different than the usual crowd that we usually get. It's not all just old white men in blue polo shirts.
It's through the work of, the PBG Summer One program and just some outreach they've been doing to younger folks and also local hotels recognizing that this should be a more affordable, accessible weekend. It is in these times, in these queer times, see what I did there?
Yep.
In these queer times, it reaffirms that this is a space that's being held for the LGBTQ community to feel safe. And when I at the show last night, I think it was like 600 people at Town Hall, and I asked like how many people are here for the first time, and a lot of people were here for the first time.
Oh, amazing! And
it was really cool because I kind of got to mention Summer of Sass and talk about how that thing you're feeling is community, like that thing you're feeling is safety, and that's why you feel a little more jubilant than normal. You've entered the bubble of privilege.
Yeah,
I feel like we don't talk enough about how Pride is the antithesis of shame. And I think that is really the thing that when people are like, what's Pride for? It's to tell you that I'm not ashamed to be me. And I think that's really something we have to lean into in the way that the religious right and the general Republican fuckery, they want you to be ashamed. And that's why they hate Pride so much. And I really want everyone to lean into that there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to talk about these assholes.
Yeah, there's literally so much.
But they're doing so much.
Yeah, there's so much going on in the world right now. We're going to stick to a few topics that are national here in America. We know there's so much going on around
but
the
we
world.
have had a busy week in America.
Yeah.
And there are things that we've had breakups. We've had
I mean, what's Pride without a breakup? What's Pride Weekend without a messy breakup?
Honestly, the fact that they broke up during Pride Weekend is fantastic. Like, so many, girl. We get you. We get you. We didn't expect your relationship to last through Pride either.
Right. But after, 3 or 4 months of the loving relationship between Elon Musk and President Trump, it seems to be crashing down.
I don't know what the catalyst was.
It's hard to know what caused it, but the first thing that happened that the turning point, I would say, was when on June 3rd in the afternoon, Elon Musk tweeted, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it.
So do we think that that really is the cause of the lashing out? That like he just hates the bill and it adds too much debt. I mean, the bill is terrible and it does do the opposite of everything that somebody who was the founder of Doge and government efficiency would hate. I think that's real.
Yeah. But it's also like, what are Elon Musk's priorities? Why was he involved in this anyway? Why was he a part of the Trump presidency? And what motivates someone like Elon Musk? And it's money, but not, I don't think Elon Musk.
I'm not sure it's money. I think it's power.
Well, right. But I think they're one and the same. Once you have a certain net worth, money stops being money and it starts being power.
Yeah, but I think that it does. And he did, like, I think it was more about being able to infiltrate a government. Do you know what I mean? Where like it's a different kind of power. Like you can be rich, but you don't get everyone's social security number. But he managed to do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's a different, that was the terrifying part for me of their relationship was it was all of that money being able to act independently with the knowledge of the government.
Mm-hmm.
So this cross-contamination of somebody who has that much money having access to data that is supposed to be protected and kept on a different level for different things. Now, I acknowledge that the melding of capitalism and corporate entities and our government is pretty messy already, but that was the part that was terrifying for me. And when I heard there was a breakup, I actually went... Like not much relief, but just a little. My shoulder went.
Yeah. I mean, I think the most powerful thing that Trump has done throughout the last 10 years of his presidencies is he has really gotten everyone in line. So whenever he's so good at stopping infighting and making everyone get in line with what he wants. So whenever there's this, not that I get excited, but I'm like, thank God.
Well, but I do think the important, number one, I do believe that this, they say someone's got to stand up to a bully. And once one person does, other people do, right? And so I think that in some ways, while Elon was a bully, the difference is that he's not an electable bully, right? So him standing up is effective, and I hope it helps. We're really about to see who has the bigger platform.
Yeah.
Because if I was Elon Musk, I would have been on Joe Rogan yesterday.
Right.
Like that would have been the first thing I would have done. I would have called Joe Rogan and be like, hey, let's do an exclusive right now. Because they're it's like, all right, when you break up, let's say, even if you haven't been together for a long time, but let's say you meet somebody at Pride and then you hang out that weekend, and then you hang out with your friends and their friends, and then all your friends hang out together and everybody's hanging out, and then 6 months later you break up and you're like, wait, can I still be friends with their friends? And I feel like that's the point of this relationship that we're at, that they're breaking up and they need to get the friends aligned on whose side, and he should be going after the biggest audiences he can. If I were managing this breakup, I would tell Elon to call Rogan immediately. And then I would honestly tell him to call like Rachel Maddow. Like I would just, no, exactly. I would be crazy. I would be like, I'm hitting everybody. I'm going to go talk to everybody. But he still has our social security number, right?
Yeah. I think something that I want to point out that is a colloquialism that isn't true necessarily, especially when it comes to politics, which is the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And no, Elon Musk is not our friend. He's a horrible person. He is a bad person. Just because he disagrees with Trump doesn't mean the Democrats love to do this, which is like, oh, we hate Trump now. That like we're friends with George Bush again. Like, what?
You really hate the George Bush thing.
I just really hate this idea of people being absolute monsters and bad people. And then the second they do something like this, like, oh, Elon Musk is fighting with Trump, that doesn't mean that he should be welcomed on the opposite side.
I just think that you underestimate the left's ability to bless your heart. You know what I mean? Our ability to be like, I don't like him, but I now know that he is going to be a weapon of my on my side.
Yeah,
because no matter what, he is anti that, and I don't like him, but I also like the idea that somebody in the inner circle is ready to take some slashes. In the same way that I want to, support anyone who does stand up to this guy. It does continue to Elon, even though I think he's a racist douchebag.
Right. But people are calling for him, like, not calling for him, but people are like, oh, he's going to fund Democratic campaigns now.
And
like, we don't want that.
Yes, we do.
No, we do not.
Why?
I'm not voting for anyone whose campaign is funded by Elon Musk. That is fucking insane.
Why? That's a real question. I'm actually like,
the
why
reason we have
you just
such
take their money?
Shitty. No politician ever just takes anyone's money. The mess we are in right now is because too many politicians have taken too many people's money, and they won't do what's right for the people because they're doing what's right for the people who gave them money. That is the number one problem with our government right now, and
I do believe that we can take their money and not do what the fuck he wants at this point in the game. At this point in the game, I feel like we are getting our asses kicked with other people's money. And if we need to start using some of
the Democratic Party is going to take his money to fund these like center left bullshit moderate candidates, and they're going to use Elon Musk's money to crush things like healthcare for everyone. They're to crush things like college debt relief, because that is what the Democratic Party has been using their money to do for the last 15 years, because they aren't doing what's best for the people, which would be Medicare for all, getting rid of college student debt. But instead, they're doing what's right for the people who gave them money, which is corporations. That is the problem. Look at Andrew Cuomo, that fucking loser, leading the mayoral race in New York.
Let me ask you this. What if Elon Musk says, I will fund a new party?
No.
Wow. I was into the new party part because I agree that the Democratic, I don't care about I think it's shit. All right. What billionaires would you take money from?
None of them. Do not take money from any billionaires. Billionaires shouldn't fucking exist.
No, but
tell them to go fuck themselves. I want to vote for people who want to tax billionaires at 90% after $1 billion, 100% after $1 billion. That is the person I want to vote for. I don't give a fuck about billionaires.
Okay, but when you acknowledge that billionaires exist, there is finite wealth. They have all of it. We literally can barely afford to fund our own shit. We cannot be funding campaigns. So, because the people who need to fight don't have the money to fight because they took all the money. So there has to be a middle ground.
I think the system can be changed and replaced. The system we have, you don't have to work within it. There are plenty of politicians that are enormous that have not taken money from billionaires. Some of the most powerful voices in politics right now have not taken money from billionaires.
I agree with that. I just think there's only like 3. And I don't know if there is enough momentum at this moment to turn that into. I would listen, I love a grassroots. I'm here for a grassroots. I would love to see a grassroots.
That's the only thing I'm interested in anymore.
I'm just not convinced it's happening fast enough, and it feels like there needs to be an immediate response that might only happen with the monies.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying, but like Elon Musk funding Democratic candidates isn't this great thing. Imagine if he stepped in right now and was like, I'm going to give Andrew Cuomo $1 billion to wrap up his campaign in New York. That would be horrible.
It would be, and
that's the type of candidates he's going to boost up.
I actually don't think so.
It would be a hostile takeover of the Democratic Party.
I actually don't think so. I don't think that's true. I don't think he wants. I think he's a disruptor. I don't think he wants any old guard. I think he saw Trump as a disruptor. I don't think it's about funding an establishment. I'm not even sure he has any ideals other than disruption. Truthfully, I don't believe that Andrew Cuomo would be appealing to him in any way, shape, or form at all. So I guess that's where but it's pride. Don't fight with me over a white man, Harrison.
Okay, let's get into more of the details of what happened.
Okay.
So there was that initial tweet where I still do love pork filled. So then he started talking about it. He said it more than defeats all the cost savings achieved by the Doge team, which was, we already
minimal.
know, nothing. He started retweeting a bunch of old tweets from Donald Trump and other Republicans, basically like a Trump tweet. There's no date on it, but it says, "I cannot believe that Republicans are extending the debt ceiling. I am a Republican and I'm embarrassed." Elon Musk retweeted that Donald Trump tweet and said wise words. Another tweet of Donald Trump that said, "No member of Congress should be eligible for re-election if our country's budget is not balanced." He said, "I couldn't agree more." Basically pointing, I think he thinks he discovered the hypocrisy within the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Which, good for him.
But like, could you imagine like what if he really just did? Like, there is a part of me that's like, is this guy been on case so hard that like he just like woke up and was like, wait,
Right.
what?
No,
it's
totally.
adding how much debt? Like, he's just fucking running around with chainsaws.
Yeah.
He wears a hat that says Doge and a t-shirt that says the Doge Father. Like, this is the nerdiest. You're not allowed.
Yeah.
I have merch that has my name on it. You're not allowed to wear two things at once. It's not a Nike fit. It's like,
Right. But then I think where it really takes the wild and most exciting turn in my book was when he tweeted in response to someone else. Elon Musk tweeted, "Without me, Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House and the Republicans would be 51 to 49 in the Senate." Such ingratitude. And I'm just like, what does that mean?
I mean, we all know what it means.
Tell me.
It means that he spent a lot of money and bots to flood the internet, and low key Democrats never want to say the election was rigged, but there's obviously fuckery with information and the exaggeration of the trans community and what would be happening if Harris got elected and all of that. So I think, do you think that Trump will deport him? Because that's really what I want to know. Will Trump deport Elon Musk?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. Like, that's his go-to, right? And this sounds like an immigration issue.
Yeah.
For me personally, I'm like, I don't know. You have somebody who is causing dissent and is actually being anti-American.
I mean, not to be a conspiracy theorist, but I know a lot of people were thinking with Elon Musk's resources, his monetary resources, and then his technological resources with SpaceX, Starlink.
It's giving evil villain.
It's giving evil villain. It's giving, did he do more than offer financial support to affect the election?
Like, does he have blackmailable content?
Like, did he use Starlink to change voting counts and in voter rolls around the country so that Trump would win?
Can you do that?
Who knows? No one would know except Elon Musk.
Somebody would know. There's somebody out there who. All right, if you are a computer wizard, perhaps you worked on satellites in the sky. I don't even know what it's called, but could you just let us know if one could commit fuckery on election machines from a satellite? So that's my question to you people. Make a fake account. You know, I'm sure you know how to evade the government, but if you could just let us know, because that would be the key piece of information. Could something like Starlink actually affect the Dominion voting machines? Or Dominion.
I know.
And now we're conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, I'm a reserved conspiracy theorist. I feel them, I think them, and then I go, but that's a conspiracy. Which, not to say that I'm saying they're true or not true, but I recognize it as a thing that can't be proven and therefore can't be fully believed.
Is that your definition of a conspiracy theory?
For me.
Yeah.
Like, I feel them and I'm like, that's fun to feel and understand and maybe think. But those people who are like, oh, that definitely happened, I'm just like, you're crazy.
What do you, KT and I were talking a lot about how, you know, in the height of pandemic, conspiracy theories were all the rage. And she said this really cool thing that she was like, I think it's about people feeling an intuition that something's not right.
Yeah.
And then the media giving them a thing to put that feeling to, like a reason to put that feeling to.
Yeah.
And so it's not about the inequalities that we're feeling and the wage disparities and the oppression. It's the government overreaching to make me get a vaccination. Like that our intuition gets manipulated.
I get that.
Because we feel something's not right, and then you want to attach that to something, and then they give you a great story to attach it to, instead of actually being like, no, it's that we should all have health care and a living wage, and our children should be taken care of and not pulled out of high school when they're 15 by ICE agents, right?
Yeah. But I mean, maybe it's because of the bubble I lived in, but my intuition around this past election was that going into the election, I was like, I know a lot of people felt this way, but it was like, there's no way. I felt there's no way that Trump is going to win again, because I understand, as much as I don't agree, I understand why he might have won the first time. The Democrats were so overconfident. They felt like his platform wasn't going to resonate with people. And then we realized that it really did resonate with people. But then as time went on, I saw the things he was doing, and maybe this is what I mean by maybe it's because of the bubble I live in, but I couldn't have imagined that the things he was doing was gaining him any followers, making people who didn't support him before or didn't vote for him before want to vote for him. And I saw him doing a lot of things that I was thinking people who might have voted for him would be like, oh, no.
Right.
You know what I mean? I only saw things that were turning people off from him and didn't see anything that was making him gain followers. So I was like, oh, he's on a downward trajectory. He barely won the first time. He lost the second time. How would he ever win again? So then when this election happened, you're right. What my intuition was being like, this can't be right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wonder if, even though there was time and time again proven that there was no proof that the 2020 election was stolen for him, I wonder if his party, his supporters rode so hard for that, knowing that they were going to steal the election the next time around in 2024, and then kind of take the wind out of the sails of anyone saying that it was rigged. Because you're like, oh, see, everyone just says it's rigged when they lose. You know what I mean?
Yes. No, I mean, I think that's what a lot of people are thinking.
That's kind of where this all leads to kind of the next topic we are going to broach, which is last week, a New York judge ruled that a lawsuit challenging the results of the 2024 presidential and U.S. Senate elections in Rockland County may proceed to the discovery phase.
Interesting.
Yeah. Did you hear about this?
No.
So basically in Rockland, New York, there has been lawsuits put forward challenging the results of the U.S. election and also the Senate election. Basically,
whose seat is that?
Kristen Gillibrand.
Okay.
And basically any statistician who looks at the results of these elections is like, that's damn near impossible to have happened.
In that particular county.
They're just looking at this county as of now.
Got
And
it.
basically what they're saying is that in multiple districts in Rockland County, Kristen Gillibrand, other Democrats on the ticket received however many votes, thousands. And then Kamala Harris received 0.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they're basically saying that somehow, they don't know, but they're saying it's statistically nearly impossible for that many people to have gone into the election booth, voted down the full ticket for every Democrat, and
then vote for Trump.
Or didn't vote for Kamala.
Okay.
Because it's just that Kamala received no votes, not necessarily that those people also voted for Trump.
Oh.
0 votes.
Well, in that case, I actually think that's very possible. Was it every person?
0 votes for Kamala Harris.
No, but okay. All right.
I mean, in districts,
0 votes of people who had voted Democratic, or 0 votes?
0.
Okay, all right. Then
so
that's
all
fine.
the other Democrats on the tickets are receiving thousands of votes from these voters, and not a single one voted for Kamala Harris.
Okay, that is crazy.
Yeah,
I could see there being some.
Statistically, most likely impossible.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. Obviously, I mean, there's millions of people in the country who voted, and I'm not going to try to understand every one of them. Of course, there's people who voted down ticket for Democrats, but couldn't vote for Kamala Harris. But I don't think that is that plentiful.
Right.
They're also saying that they have sworn affidavits from people who cast their votes for Senate candidate Diane Sayre, who was an independent candidate. sworn affidavits that from voters that say they did vote for that person and they receive 0 votes. So there are like very consistent and very obvious voting irregularities, and they're hoping to get a hand count in that district again.
But how long will it take to get the answer, right?
Too long.
Like this, I feel like this is like in 15 years, they're going to be like, we're releasing the files from the Rockland County election case.
Sworn affidavits from voters claim votes were not properly counted, while a statistical analysis cited in the complaint suggests that presidential results deviate sharply from expectations based on prior elections. In multiple districts, results showed voters backing a Democratic Senate Kristen Gillibrand alongside a total of 0 votes for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah.
You know what we also have to talk about?
Sure.
It's World Pride right now.
Oh, yeah.
In DC. And did you hear about them shutting down DuPont Circle?
I did hear about that.
Yeah. So there's a quirk in the rules that put the federal government in charge of the city parks. And so they just fenced off DuPont Circle and any city parks. The National Park Service's decision to fence off DuPont Circle ahead of the upcoming Pride Parade. And as someone, we both live abutting a National Park Service, I just thought that was really interesting. They're basically like closing it during Pride is like shutting down the Stonewall site.
Yeah.
Like it's not casual. It's sacred ground.
It's a gathering. It would be a gathering place.
Yeah. And then right after, obviously, renaming the ship, the naval vessel.
Yeah.
So we don't call it Harvey Milk anymore.
Yeah. And again, I know I got eaten alive on Twitter. I mean, on TikTok.
For what?
I feel like, again,
I don't watch you on TikTok.
Oh. I feel like, again, these are not unimportant, which is what I got criticized for diminishing the importance of things like removing Harvey Milk's name from this ship.
Oh, wait, someone said it that we didn't care enough, or you didn't care enough specifically?
Yeah, someone said, I think it was you specifically, but
that it's performative, like the removal of these names. I think it is.
We were both kind of arguing that the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico was kind of inconsequential.
That's different. The renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to rename it the Gulf of America is a publicity stunt geared at middle America to make them go, America, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Removing Harvey Milk's name, who served in the military through 2 wars from a naval vessel, is queer erasure.
Mm-hmm.
Those are 2 very different renaming situations, and I dare say they're not comparable, Harrison.
But, I mean, the people in the comments argued that Mexico is...
Wait, was it me in the comments, though?
People in the comments argued that Mexico is an indigenous name, and it's the erasure of indigenous names and people from this continent. Mexico is an indigenous name. America is based on an Italian explorer, Amerigo, blah, 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 something.
So by naming it after the Italian colonizer, technically, because Americus or whatever his name was. Okay, all right, so I'm wrong, is what you're saying.
That's what they were saying.
I was definitely only looking at it from, here's a gulf, there's 2 countries. Those 2 countries share this gulf. And we're in a tug of war of who gets to name it. Who has 51% of the Gulf on their shoreline? Who has 49% of the Gulf on their shoreline? And that is really where I went, because wasn't it actually Spain? Wasn't the property was it like when we bought all that land, was it Spanish?
I don't know. I think what it comes down to is we're both viewing it from a much more modern perspective.
Right.
Where we me as admittedly someone who's a little like kind of, American.
Yes.
In the idea that what I see around me is like our little baby country over here is how
we are so young.
Yeah. And we think we're the whole world.
It is. No, because that's what you do. We're like, I always used to say that we're like the world's drunk young cousin. We just want to fucking fight. Like we're like everyone's young drunk cousin. We have a spirit of privilege that could serve us well if it's directed appropriately.
Yeah. But I guess what I was saying about the renaming is that as much as, although it is important, there are things in my mind that are more important to be focused on and fighting against.
I agree.
Which I know people can care and fight for a lot of different things, but when
we contain multitudes.
Yeah, but when one thing is about the letters on the side of a ship and the other thing is about real people's lives, I'm going to not split my attention between the two.
Correct.
And I understand if you want to split your attention, because this is what we got Ian alive for last time on TikTok, but
I feel like now that we have recognized what erasure is, it's less effective because we can name it, just like everything else. And when you can name something, and so for years when this sort of thing wasn't happening, it wasn't really in the collective consciousness, right? Like, and now I think we can see it and be like, oh, that's what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it is less powerful, and I think that it certainly is less important than people getting disappeared on a daily basis in our country.
Yes, I agree. And speaking of people being disappeared, I think the next thing I would love to talk about is what's happening in LA right now.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And proud of LA. Like I'm not really West Coast. I need a lot of humidity in my life. Mm-hmm. But as someone who has been actively complaining about Massachusetts and the things happening in Massachusetts, to see that sort of a stand up to power right now is quite moving.
Yeah, so there's multiple protests happening in LA right now, mostly against the presence of ICE agents in LA. And not that I'm starting to see, but it's starting to become more obvious that, and I guess maybe it's just because of the way it's covered in the media, but maybe not, which is they're sending ICE agents to Massachusetts. They're sending ICE agents to LA. Is it not happening, or am I not hearing about it? Are they sending ICE agents to these mega farms in the Midwest owned by Republican donors, which I'm sure are specifically manned by, I don't want to say necessarily illegal immigrants, but the type of people,
a migrant workforce.
Yeah, the type of people that Trump is demonizing, villainizing, and rounding up and shipping out of the country. Like, are they not going to them, or am I not hearing about it because it's not happening in my backyard or in a city? Or
great question. Are they not going there?
And
because there would be minimal resistance.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I'm wondering if the actions that have taken place since these protests have started in LA are part of a bigger plan. Because basically what's happened is these protests, these massive amounts of protests are happening in LA against ICE operations. There's been as many as 118 arrests, and Governor Newsom has condemned the raids as cruel. And basically last night, Governor Newsom came out and said that Trump is trying to order the National Guard from California into LA, which is kind of wild.
Because it's state jurisdiction. That's the state National Guard.
Basically, the National Guard is typically can only be brought in by the governor of that state.
But they're there.
I wonder if going to a place like LA, which has probably the most predominantly Latinx population in the country, knowing it would incite these types of responses. And then,
and because they could have gone to Houston too, because but they're all going to have guns.
Right.
And so they went to
Right. So they go to LA, and then they bring in the National Guard. They're saying that the Marines are on standby. Now, all of a sudden, it is people in America going up against the American military.
And a lot of local law enforcement not getting involved in the enforcement, but also not getting involved in the protection of the citizens.
Right.
And apparently the rule is they're not supposed to do that. But what is, again, here we go. You know me, states' rights. Like this is exactly a case where any conservative should go, hey, the president telling a governor how to run their National Guard is overreach.
Right.
And if you think otherwise, you are not a conservative. You are barely a Republican, to be honest.
Right.
You're basically a socialist. Like no one really, people only apply socialism to food and housing. They never, if you're taking over a state, then there's no America if there's no states' rights. There was a woman named Carol Mayorga in Kennett, Missouri, to your answer of small places, small towns, who ICE did pick up originally from Hong Kong and had lived there for like 2 years. And the town lost their minds because this woman was just a beloved member of the community. And I think like Sheryl Crow is from there or something. So Sheryl Crow like showed up and was like, free Carol.
I mean, that's a great example because when Trump speaks broadly about the type of people that he's trying to remove from the country, he sensationalizes and tells his supporters that like they're bad people. And I'm not saying that they're all good people, but there's bad people everywhere.
Yeah.
And like, oh, they're trying to take this woman who's a part of our community. Like, I need y'all to not y'all, because I imagine if you're listening to this, you probably agree with me, but like having worked in a lot of different jobs through my life, like I've worked with so many people who have immigrated to the United States, and they're all beloved members of the community.
Yes.
Like all of them, like they work in businesses, they work really hard.
Can I tell you that I regularly, when dealing with hiring a handy person or repair person, more often than not, the non-immigrant crew wants a deposit up front of, half of the job. They won't give me a date of when it's going to start. I just got to trust they'll show up eventually. And I could call like someone who is here either legally or illegally running their own business, and they're there and the expectations are clear and the cost is half as much.
Yeah. And I'll start right now.
And I'll start right now. Yeah. No, exactly. Like I don't know. It's really sad to me the way they've managed to use, again, racism to instill fear about something that isn't real. I definitely don't know how to help, right? I do think that this particular situation in LA, I'm incredibly motivated in, and I'm trying to stay aware and I'm trying to be active in my local community. But it is really a moment of like, there was a scare in town that ICE was here last week. I don't know if you heard it, but it went through town like wildfire. I was out looking, people were out looking. And we really have to like, will we do that? Will we block off a road? Will we park a car on Commercial Street and so they can't move and throw the keys in the ocean? Like what will we do as a community, and what will you do in your community if it shows up?
But there is a lot of other worrisome things. Basically, I'm sure a lot of us have seen images of ICE showing up and being places, and even these like terrorist groups that exist within America, like Proud Boys, they're all wearing masks. Like,
yeah, no, it's fucked.
In every image or video of these ICE raids that I see, they're all wearing masks. And when people are like, why are you wearing masks? And they're like, oh, well, if people know who they are, they're going to get like, people are going to be mad at them. I'm like, well, then shouldn't people be allowed to be mad at these people?
It blows my mind how people can say they're doing the right thing for America. They're protecting our homeland. And if it's so brave, why can't we see your face,
Why
soldier?
do they have to hide?
What is it that you're doing that you don't want anyone to know? Oh, you don't want people to know that you're one of the people doing this? How do you sleep at night then?
Trump also said on Truth Social that he said protesters would no longer be allowed to wear masks.
You're kidding me. Who said that?
Trump on Truth Social.
That protesters are no longer allowed to wear masks. Again, this is back to it's not a protest if the government sanctions my behavior. Right. That's literally the opposite of that. So but great. Who the fuck cares?
They're going to start setting the precedent that if you're wearing a mask, we can arrest you. That's what that's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, with the ideals that I've always felt that America was based on, the right to protest, the right to gather, I feel like those are very core ideals of America. And if you don't see having masked groups of people coming in to round people up and the people fighting against that not being able to be masked as the degradation of our right to protest, and with that degradation, a degradation of what we are as a country. It's worrisome.
It's terrifying. I mean, there's no. I have always tried to be like, it's gonna be okay, and every day I'm like, it's getting less okay.
Yeah, this is. I think I know there's so many moments over the past months that were like, oh, this should scare you. This should scare you. But I feel like this is beyond that. It's the most worrisome, and I think this should really terrify you because like, oh, fascism is here. This is bold fascism.
Yeah, I think we'll know in the next probably by the time this episode goes out this week, we'll have an idea of how far this is going to go and what California can do to prevent it. 39 minutes ago, 300 National Guard troops were in LA, says Governor Newsom.
Yeah.
And apparently there's also protests popping up in New York. What advice do you have? It's about knowing your rights. It's about, I saw a lot of footage on TikTok of people, going through immigrant neighborhoods and just like bullhorning, like, hey, they're fucking coming.
Yeah.
I think being vigilant in your community, I think being vigilant, I think it's now time for vigilantes.
Oh, yeah.
I think it is about being vigilant, whether it's protecting your queer friends, whether it's protecting your immigrant neighbors and friends. Be aware. Don't be afraid. Don't be complacent. Get in the way. Use your white bodies, use your cis bodies to slow it down.
Yeah. Anything
that is resistance in real action, I think, is all we can do right now as we see what happens next. And
yeah,
because eventually Elon's going to give us all robots. So I'm kidding.
Yeah, I think the thing is there are so many people who are being put in danger because of the Trump presidency. And I would say all of us, but to different degrees. And I feel like if you feel like I do, like I have a sense of privilege, to use your privilege to put yourself in potentially as much danger as the other people who are already in danger.
Yeah, at the front of the danger.
Yeah. But also like make sure you're being safe, as safe as you can be. I know if you're protesting, they don't suggest that you keep your phone on you. And if you do, make sure to turn off your facial recognition. Try to cover your face while you're protesting, because obviously there's facial recognition software. And we've already seen people in the past year or so that have been out protesting being targeted.
Here's what we're going to need. We're going to need studio makeup artists. Here's the thing. I've been watching TikTok, and they can make people look like anything these days. And so what if we don't mask? What if we out-gay them with makeup?
We all show up looking like famous Republicans?
Famous Republicans, or just like Ariel, the mermaid. Like, I really think that
make Disney shut it down.
The way, oh my God, could you imagine? All right, gays, queers, theys, here is your mission. Before you go protest, fierce makeup.
Yes.
Because tell me that I can tell you right now, that's why they're so afraid of drag queens. This is how we get around the masking. If you go out in full face, they will never. I live in a town surrounded by drag queens, and it takes me a good 2 months of a new queen coming to town before I can figure out who that person is out of face.
Oh, I don't know any of them.
Exactly. Oh my God. We have unlocked a queer superpower. Not only are drag queens going to lead the revolution, they're going to do our makeup.
And we all have to be drag queens.
And we all have to be drag queens. And then that way you're not wearing a mask, so you cannot be arrested, but they also cannot identify you. So this Pride, protest in drag.
Work. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Thank you all for listening. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, download, review, rate, all the things. And this is a tough month, it's Pride, so be sure to gather with your community to feel safe, loved, and seen, but also gather with your community with the intention of knowing the state of the world and knowing how you should react when you're confronted with that.
But also, if you just need to get drunk for a day, do that. Queer is in.